and Mahomes at bay.
The Tampa Bay Bucks, Super Bowl 55.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Bucks Banter podcast. This is episode 41. And although the Tampa Bay Buccaneers season is done, the NFL season is not, as 4 teams still remain in the postseason, each of them with Super Bowl aspirations. But in order to get there, they're going to need to win one more game. And those games are going down this Sunday and what will determine the champion of each conference. That's why they're called the Conference Championships. And these matchups will decide who's going to have the honor to compete in Super Bowl 56, a game that will be played on Sunday, February 13th at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, California. I am your host, Collin Hallboom, and I am joined by both of my co-hosts this evening, as I usually am, even when we record on a Friday night, because what else would we be doing? Scott and Bodan, how goes it, gentlemen?
I'm sorry I messed up the intro. I didn't know that Scott wanted to do a waterfall during your monologue. I would have joined you, Scott. I'm sorry.
I didn't really realize what I was doing either. And then I was like halfway into just finishing this beer. I was like, I hope this isn't distracting as I'm just crushing it. But to be honest, it's because I was going to crack one. And then I thought that would be more distracting. So, great start all around. Hey guys. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, it would have been less distracting.
Yeah. I'm realizing it now. Live and learn, guys. Live and learn.
I'm used to that. In the backdrop of that. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're quite simply going to break down these conference championship games. I mean, obviously, it's unfortunate that we don't have Buccaneers football to talk about, but we'll have plenty of offseason content that we can discuss as it relates to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the NFL draft and all that stuff. So we're just going to zip through previewing these games. We'll talk a little bit about the coaching and GM carousel that's going on in the NFL right now. Some action today. Brian Daboll was just announced as the new head coach of the New York Giants, so that's great hire for them, I think, but we'll talk about that once we get through these conference championship previews. And I think we're going to start in the AFC Championship. That's the first game that's being played on Sunday between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 7.5 last I checked. That game's kicking off at 3 p.m. on CBS. The Bengals were 10-7 this year in, what was a major turnaround for them. First in the AFC North, which was massive. And they've got a high-powered offense with impressive weapons all over the field. 2 young superstars with the ability to take over a game and blow it wide open in the blink of an eye. Obviously, I'm talking about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Speaking of Chase, he had 232 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns in Week 17 when these two teams met. My God.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That was like watching like Kevin Durant go for 54 or something like that. It's so rare in a football game for someone to just dominate, and especially a receiver, he has to actually get the ball thrown to him. But he was just incredible. Maybe a couple non-calls or calls that went his way, but not to take anything away from it. He was special, and he was the reason why he won that game. That was something else.
Totally, yep. No other way to slice it. I like the analogy there, too. It's like Katie's a good one. Like, it's just nothing you can do.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking about that division was kind of underwhelming, but no bad teams. You know what I mean? Like, Green Bay got to play Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago, right? Dallas was in there with Philly, the Giants, and the Eagles. So I know the Bengals were only 10-7, but to go out there and actually win that division, like definitely a year or maybe 2 ahead of schedule, and to get to this AFC Championship game is just an awesome story and a fun one and a new team, right? And how much do we love Burrow? I feel like we're watching our nephew out there play.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, and I think even if we just take a step back, against the Titans, he was so composed on basically every drive, even though he knew he was going to get sacked on every drive. The Titans were doing this weird thing where they were going cover 0 every time he had an empty backfield. And by the fourth quarter, he was just literally shredding them. He could not stop it.
Yeah, no kidding. I think poise and like poised and under control are two great superlatives to define him. He just is totally ready for the moment. I hate to speak in cliches and not just talk about his actual talent, because that's what really has gotten him here, and that's why he's so good. But he's ready. He's not going to walk into this game and be shell shocked. Nothing like that. He has the ability to hunt the big play, which you're going to need in order to put up points against Kansas City. We've seen them do that. Obviously, this was January 2nd when they played last. Whether or not they're going to have the same success, because that was truly like basketball on grass, that game just after the New Year there. So we'll have to see. But if that line can hold up, at least a little bit better, there's going to be shots down the field. They're like, we saw it, and I know Matthew was out in that Bills game for the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, but look at how many holes there were in that secondary. And if it's anything close to that, and Burrow has the time, he's going to be able to pick them apart. They're going to be able to score. It's just a matter of if they can, maybe cause a few turnovers, knock a ball loose from Mahomes, and in order to stay in this game.
Yeah, and you're right. It is just Burrow's talent, right? You can describe it however you want, but that it all can just be categorized as his talent. And it's funny, man.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking at the QB comparison stats with Mahomes from the regular season, and I like Burrow would probably get the nod if you were just looking at numbers on a screen. I mean, he's got a better completion percentage, better yards per attempt, more yards per game, 3 less touchdowns, and 1 more interception, higher quarterback rating, and he was sacked 14 more times as well. So obviously he's been up against it, which is a huge issue for the Bengals, which we saw against the Titans. My God, I mean, that's obviously their biggest weakness. It's just a putrid offensive line unit. I'm not sure. I've seen a group of linemen get bitched as dramatically as they did versus the Titans.
Yeah, isn't it?
But the thing about the Bengals, they still managed to win that game.
Yeah, and isn't it so funny that everything about the draft and the preseason was, basically a solid offensive line by drafting Sewell or having the dynamic playmaker. And they went with the playmaker, who is obviously, absolutely balled out and proven to be worth every single penny, and definitely worth that high of a pick. But it's not like the line just magically was really good also. Like they're doing it in spite of it. And I'm not saying I'm wrong all the time. I kind of thought if your quarterback's smart enough and if you have enough weapons outside, you can kind of fake it till you make it with the offensive line. Now, obviously, that almost bit them in the ass last week, but they somehow did it, and here we are, man. Like AFC Championship game, it's Burrow and Mahomes. Like, how awesome is this?
When do you think we'll have like a bad AFC? Like, do you think there'll ever be a bad quarterback in like the next 10 years in this game?
No.
Right?
Think about
it's going to be Mahomes or Allen or Burrow or Herbert.
Rodgers.
Possibly Rodgers.
Yeah, Rodgers. Yeah, no kidding. If that all comes to fruition, it's such a good point. Like, I don't know. Things change all the time, obviously, and but it really looks, barring something crazy, that Mahomes is going to be a Chief for life, and I'm sure the Bills want Josh Allen to be a Bill for life, right? So, great point, and that's what we want to watch. Is want to see at least 4 elite quarterbacks on this championship Sunday, right? And I think we're getting 3, which I guess isn't bad. So
at least 3, yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you guys think, like, offensively? We've talked about the line. Like, does that line have to be better? Like, is there a player that you can think of that needs to have a big game? Like, we know Jamar Chase is going to show up. We're pretty sure Joe Burrow is going to show up. Like, is there another player that you guys think needs to show up for Cincinnati to keep this competitive?
I think Uzoma. Yeah. Sorry, Collin.
No, it's okay. Yeah, CJ Uzoma, that like he can be like he's solid, right? He has these games. He's certainly not consistent necessarily, but when he comes to play, that's just another weapon they have that can unleash a different aspect of their offense.
He's a good player, man. He's really always good. Just doing the right thing out there. Great hands, good red zone target too. I not to cop out, but Burrow has to be awesome, and
Yeah.
he obviously a lot of the sacks against Tennessee were on Burrow, were on the line, but a couple of them were on Burrow holding onto the ball, and I think that's what happens when your offense is sputtering a little bit. So you hold on to the ball a little bit more, trying to force one down the field, trying to wait for a play to develop. So, and maybe with an elite offensive line, that's not an issue, but he definitely held onto the ball a bit. It's going to be interesting to see if holding onto the ball that extra second against Kansas City either results in big plays offensively or if that allows Kansas City to get home. So obviously a lot of it's on Burrow, but I would say Uzama in the middle of the field, and then one of Boyd or Higgins to make a couple plays.
Yeah, Higgins was the one that stuck out to me, just coming back from injury. He didn't look completely right against the Titans, and he's got a little bit more of that explosiveness back last week. But if he could have a big game and take some of the pressure off of Jamar Chase, because the Chiefs are good at taking what, like, Stephon Diggs didn't have a good game last week.
No, you're right.
Like, say what you will about the Chiefs defense, that was scheme.
They weren't
right. So
they were not letting,
and like Gabriel Davis went crazy, but T. Higgins could be in line to have a Gabriel Davis type of game, and he definitely has the talent to do that.
Just based on that Diggs template from last week, I mean, Chase is getting at least that sort of attention, right? Like you got to think.
Yeah, and I actually think Mixon can have a big role in this game, and I think that doesn't necessarily mean just strictly as a runner. I think people are sleeping on his ability as a receiver as well. So, they have so many options in the passing game, and Mixon's been, like, not to spoil my lead here, but that's going to be a bet that I'm going to suggest. That's the one I have in play at this point, and that's Mixon over 3.5 receptions and over 30.5 receiving yards as a little same game parlay. Put them together. Because if you look at the numbers for Mixon, I mean, he just watched the games, but looking at the numbers to be like over his last, where is it here? He has 23 receptions and almost 200 yards over his last 4 games. He's averaging over 5 receptions, close to 50 yards per game. And he looks good doing it. So I think that's another way you can get him involved if your offensive line is just getting bulldozed all the time as well, right? Which could very well be the case versus the Chiefs front four. Also, shout out to Russell Schuhart on YouTube, our Bucks report, having some technical issues. So we're out here on our lonesome, but he found us on YouTube. So shout out to you, Russell. Thanks for joining us. Even though we got no Bucks football to talk about, still chopping it up about the NFL playoffs.
Collin, I got to commend you, though. On that note, like you really bounced back. The energy's back. You were really down. You were down super bad on Monday.
Can see it in your face, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that could just be the lighting. I was off work today. No, like I'm getting there. A few days does a lot of good. If I heard Tom Brady announce he was coming back, I'd tell you I'd be real chipper tonight.
Yeah. Let life goes on. It's 5 days. It's hard. They won the Super Bowl last year. You were almost free rolling this year. I know Bucs fans don't want to hear that, but it kind of was.
For sure.
Right. I mean, house money. But I like that. It feels like that mix and bet call, the 3.5 and the 30.5. It feels like if you get one, you're going to get the other. Right. So you may as well, parlay them together.
Yeah. I love the idea of parlaying them.
I played the exact bet last week and it hit real early, real easily.
Yeah.
And it just seemed too easy to not ride with it again, especially in a game like this. I just kind of think that's something they're opening up that Zach Taylor's decided has got to be more a part of their offense. So, and it's certainly within his realm of capabilities. So,
okay, we got to talk about the Chiefs though, right? Like,
yes,
like I think I don't know, we'll probably get to picks, but every other football pundit that's out there is picking the Chiefs in this game. Vegas picking the Chiefs, obviously, with the big number. So I don't know. What do you guys like? What kind of game is this going to be? Because, like, I think if you go into a shootout with Cincinnati, it's more of a coin flip than it is if you can kind of slow and control the tempo, right?
Yeah, I think that's a valid way to put it for sure. I mean, the Chiefs can beat you in a lot of ways. I mean, look how lethal Mahomes looked without necessarily trying to force the ball downfield
Long
versus the
drives.
Bills, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if he can control the clock as well and stay dialed in, it's obviously an issue for Cincy. But Cincy, you know, as long as they're getting the ball every other possession, I mean, they can score as well. But they're just, I think it more depends on Cincinnati. I think that's their only hope is Cincinnati is like a shootout.
Yeah.
But they have to be, Cincinnati has to be great on first down, because if it's second and third and long, then that's going to lead to potential turnover worthy plays, right? Because Kansas City's either going to be able to get to Burrow and maybe strip a ball, or he's going to have to force a ball into a tight window, things like that. Like, you know, cliche guy, but really they need to be great on first down in order to give Burrow as much of an opportunity and just release the pressure from the offensive line, in my opinion, in order to score enough points. Because, like, the Chiefs, the Bengals defense is not that good. It really is, and it's going to take something special to keep Kansas City to, like, you know, let's say under 28 points. I would say, right?
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Yeah. And they did their, you know, they looked pretty good if you just look at all the picks and the turnovers they generated last weekend. But that was probably just as much, if not more, a result of Tannehill playing sloppy football, right?
I mean, like,
they still took advantage of it. It's tough to actually catch the ball for DBs, but yeah, they still took advantage of it.
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
that's like those tipped balls, right? Like they could go anywhere. The one down in the red zone, I can't remember the whoever made the play, but it went up basically off of his shoulder pad directly up in the air, and then he made the play. To his credit, the one on the potential game-ending drive, you know, that ball could have easily fallen, right? It's going to be things like that. I think that Cincinnati really needs to be on the right side in order to keep up here, because Mahomes is. I mean, we know how good he is, but he's also just playing so well right now. Yeah. Hill and Kelsey are healthy. They were not. They were coming off of COVID in that first game against Cincinnati. They still scored 31 points and kind of left some on the board, to be completely honest. So I like Cincinnati has to play mistake free, I think, to stay with it, because Kansas City is going to be expecting to score on every single time they touch the ball. This could be one of those ones where Kansas City doesn't punt.
Yeah, easily. The one thing that scares me with Kansas City, though, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't know how you guys feel about him, but he's coming back off of injury, and I think Vegas is expecting him to get like the bulk of the touches. You can't even bet on Jerick McKinnon, and I thought Jerick McKinnon was great for those 2 weeks. So,
dude, I love what McKinnon brings them, and you can tell Mahomes does.
Yeah, I thought Mahomes really liked it too.
Even in his first game there where he had the reins, he absolutely popped as just another explosive weapon to add to the offense. Great insurance for Edwards-Helaire. I think they're in a great situation with knowing that he can give him something.
But I wish they went to a more like the 2-back system almost, because it seems like, I don't know, I get nervous with Clyde Edwards-Helaire for some reason. And especially coming off of injury, I would much rather see Jerick McKinnon out there for the bulk of the carries still.
Well, shit, I don't care. I'm cheering for the Bengals, so like I hope they have some little controversy about who to play, and they don't. Like I think McKinnon looked fantastic. Like I hope Helaire takes some of those carries. I don't know. The other thing is with the Chiefs, right? So like obviously, you know, they're playing in their fourth consecutive AFC Championship game.
Yeah,
at home.
Talking about arguably the most potent offensive trio in NFL history, at least at the quarterback, receiver, tight end positions, and a creative, experienced play caller, right? And Andy Reid. So they got all that. Then since last year, which was their third consecutive time hosting the AFC Championship, but since then they've turned what was a glaring weakness, their offensive line, into a really, really strong group. And I think that helps. Like the run blocking wise, they're fantastic. Just to quickly summarize who those guys are. In free agency, they brought in Joe Thuney, however you say it, Tooney from the Pats. Yeah. They traded for Orlando Brown Jr. from the Ravens. He's playing left tackle, and they just crushed the draft, right? Creed Humphrey in the second, who we've talked about plenty out of Oklahoma, and Trey Smith in the sixth out of Tennessee, which was a steal that everyone passed on for health concerns. And obviously Andy Reid was smart enough to say this is too much. So they've improved, you could say, their offense in a lot of ways because they now have another weapon they can rely on in the running game. But more importantly, the big boys in the trenches who are paving the way are far more equipped to do that. And they're really good in pass pro as well. And you got Mahomes, the game speed rusher, who we were sharing that tweet about his game speed, which was super interesting. Some of the data as it relates to Patrick Mahomes' ability to create positive plays for his team with his legs, despite what his technical 40 time is and all that. I found that really interesting. I know you guys did too.
Oh yeah.
But the big thing for me, boys, the big question and the big issue with this team is their defense. It's a huge question mark because they've proven over the course of the season to be extremely inconsistent.
Yeah, and it's drive to drive with them.
Right. And also it's kind of, they go in chunks of games. Like obviously not having Matthew last weekend was an issue. But even with him there, when they played these Bengals, they gave up 34 points and 446 yards in the air.
Yeah.
And there was a really cool tweet by Joe Osborne today, just talking about the Chiefs D against good quarterbacks this year. So this is the points they gave up. Lamar Jackson, when they played him, they gave up 36. Josh Allen played him twice, gave up 38 and 36. Herbert played twice, gave up 30 and 28 points respectively in those two games. And then, of course, as mentioned, Burrow put up 34. Not a great resume when they're playing elite quarterbacks. And if you're not, don't be mistaken, Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback right now.
That's
I think
super fair, man. That's super fair.
The thing that you have to do to Burrow is that you have to try to confuse him. He's definitely shown that he has like a credible amount of poise and he can figure out a defense as the game goes on. You have to give him different looks because, like, I just go back to the Titans just showing him cover zero with the empty backfield. Literally every play that he had an empty backfield that he saw cover zero, and he just ended up just dicing them.
Did you not get my email, Bo?
What's
about
that?
We're not allowed to say cover zero on the pod anymore.
Why not?
Because of what Todd Bowles did, the
cover zero. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Thanks a lot, Todd. Killing our content here.
Call it cover O. Cover O.
Cover Bo. Cover Bo.
Good luck.
Yeah, Bo, you're completely right, but you got to think Spagnuolo will stay. That's good. You got to think Spagnuolo will be aggressive and come at them and challenge that offensive line to try to say, all right, we're coming. Are you going to block us? And Burrow, are you going to be able to get the ball out in time? That's why I think it has to be the difference between 3rd and 3 and 3rd and 8 is huge, right? Yeah. So, I mean, like all these games, every time we come down to the conference championship games in the Super Bowl, I just can't wait to watch. I just can't wait to see what happens. And is it a normal game or is there some turnover luck? Like the Houston Kansas City playoff game from a couple years ago when Houston blocked a punt and weren't they at 21-0? Who knows, right? Maybe Cincinnati returns a kick. I don't know. I think they're going to need something like that, almost similar to what how San Fran kind of pulled one out of their ass against Green Bay, right, with the block kick. Something like that. I just don't see them stopping the Chiefs enough. I think they can hang with them. I have no for sure. I believe that. Are they really going to outscore Mahomes and the Chiefs at home? I don't think so. That's where I'm leaning.
And for me, I'm in the exact same boat. I think I could easily see the Bengals covering, keeping it within a touchdown. But I just think the home field advantage you just mentioned, Scott, and then also Andy Reid. He's got lots of big game experience, and he's such a creative play caller, especially coming off that disappointing Super Bowl defeat last year. He knows how big this is, and he's going to be in his bag of tricks. So I just think it's a bit much for the Bengals to overcome at this point in terms of their roster building and just the experience of their guys.
And that's okay, by the way. This isn't some easy thing. I really hope the Bengals play well. Not that I think the season is of unmitigated, it's totally a success no matter what. I just hope it's not 41-10 and it's this, I don't know, it's just this blowout and a Mahomes coronation and all that. But I trust I trust Burrow to go out there and play well. I think we haven't really talked about the coach. I'm only so on Zach Taylor, to be honest, but if any coach at this point going into Kansas City doesn't realize that you need touchdowns to win, then you've lost the game already, right? So that'll be interesting to see how aggressive they are early.
Dude, I think he's been good in this playoff run. And like to your point as well, Scott, like super good point. We're not knocking Kansas City. You have an impossible task in front of you. And I think you won your first playoff game in like 30 years during this playoff run. You won only two games like 2 years ago. Like this is an unbelievable turnaround for this franchise.
Yeah. And like I said, sorry, like not to beat a dead horse, but I guess we'll call them three competent teams in their division. Like that's a slog, man. And they won it, and they were the best team. I mean, I guess they got helped out with some, Lamar injury, bad luck for Baltimore. But Cincinnati went into Baltimore and smashed them early in the season as well, right? So I don't know. They're a cool team. I enjoy watching them. I really like Burrow, and I hope he plays well.
Part of me is like a little fearful as a football fan, just believing in football karma or whatever you want to call it, superstition. I don't know what you would categorize it as, but just because we're coming off of such an incredible weekend of football, I'm fearful we're due for a couple.
Yeah.
I don't want to say blowouts, but maybe not barn burners.
Well, to be honestly, last week was so good. We can't even if both games were like 42-10, we can't complain. That's how good last weekend was, right? So I hear you. I feel it's potentially coming. It's potentially coming, but
I have a question for you guys, and like I think I know what most people would say, but I am curious. In terms of this game, right? If you could pick one receiver that's playing in this game to join your team for next season, just for next season, as like you got one year, who would you take? Which receiver from this game?
You're just trying to get us to say Jamar Chase.
I'm gonna say Jamar Chase.
Trying to make you think about it. So you'd rather for next year in its singularity have Jamar Chase over Tyreek Hill?
I would take Tyreek Hill. Yeah,
not even a question.
Honestly,
it would be Chase.
I know. Like, I guess, is it just for 1 year and you have to give him back the year after?
Yeah, let's say
I would probably take Tyreek Hill just because it's so game breaking, and it works with literally any quarterback. I know so is Chase, but it's different. I think you give a lot of like he's only had one quarterback for like 3 years now, right? So I think Tyreek Hill, even though he's playing with Mahomes for like the bulk of his prime, I think what he does on the football field is so game breaking. And every time he touches the ball, it's like, okay, I don't know if he could take it to the house. Like as much as Jamar Chase does that too, I don't think you're wrong with either one of them. But if I'm going to take the resume of Tyreek Hill.
See, and I think most people would, Bo. And I think the only other or the one point that could be made in your favor on that side of the argument would be it's kind of like a pitcher in baseball. You know how often like rookie pitchers come into the league and they have quite a bit of success right away because they got all this stuff, but the batters and the opposing teams haven't had a good enough scouting report. They haven't had time to like figure him out yet, and then they tend to hit a regression the next year. Tyreek Hill, teams have been planning for him, scheming for him, like for the last 6 seasons? Is it that much? Like
yeah.
So there's that element of it as well. I mean, you guys know where I would side, but I'm obviously stupidly biased. But I would side with Scott and take Jamar Chase just because I feel like his ceiling is so insane.
But you only have him for 1 year. That's why I was like, okay, if I'm only getting him for 1 year and I have to give him back after, I would probably take Tyreek Hill because like it's literally any offense, anytime, right? And not to say that Jamar Chase isn't like that. It's just that Tyreek Hill has the resume of just being an absolute game breaker.
Yeah, this is a situation where like it's the football equivalent of being like loaned out to Ajax or something in the Dutch league here, Collin. You know what I mean? And you get your guy back. But
appreciate you referencing the Dutch league specifically.
I had to go to the Dutch league for you, but I could have said PSV or the other one. Oh God, there's a third one.
So, but like the better question is, if you had to pick 3 receivers, at least 2 of them are going to be Bengals, right? If you had to pick 4 receivers, at least 3 of them would be Bengals, right?
Yeah.
Like
as long as
actual wideouts.
Actual.
Yeah.
Even if you do count Kelsey, it's that's 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, Chase, Hill, and Kelsey are the first three off the board, and then it's Higgins if you're including Kelsey. But
Yeah.
Well, this is
Like how
getting
long
into
it takes you
very-
to take another Chiefs guy would be a while, I bet.
yeah, this is more of our off-season hypotheticals. We don't want to go too far down this road.
This is a pretty this is getting into a pretty specific hypothetical. But my only thing with my Chase pick over Hill would be just getting the ball in space, game breakability is obviously, I don't think there's anybody better than Hill, but I think the difference between him and Chase in that aspect is less than the difference between Chase and Hill and just throwing him the ball down the sideline and going and making a play. So that's where I'm at. I don't think he can make a wrong decision between those two, to be honest. I mean, look at what Hill did. He's absolutely insane with the ball in his hands. Like, don't get me wrong. Chase also has that. He's just bigger. You know what I mean? So that's where I would lean, but it's a good question.
Now, do you guys have, before we move on to the next game, do you have are you guys betting this game? Like, what are your leans? Do you have any action on this game?
Not betting the side, looking quite hard at the over. It depends on the possessions, but the over right now, wow, it's moved up to 54
it's really
and a
high.
half. Yeah, but I see, I think it's going to be like 38-28 Chiefs if I had to put something to it. So, I mean, I guess I'm leading like with the Chiefs actually covering the 7.5, which isn't usually the way I would go, but I'm not betting it. Like I said, it's just a lead. I'm looking at the over in that game. I actually like a side in the second game that when we discuss, we can go over that. But as far as bets, there's a couple props. I really like that mix in one call that you threw in there.
Yeah.
Jerick McKinnon is plus 162 to score at any point. I feel like that's good, pretty good value. I like his, maybe it's easy to run or catch one. So that isn't a bet that I've made or anything. The only bet that I've actually made is the over on the game.
Nice.
Yeah, I was going to save it for the end of it, but like I do have this futures ticket that's riding on this entire weekend, right? And I'm after some deliberation, I don't think I'm going to hedge it at all, but I have the Chiefs and I have the Rams in the Super Bowl, and $20 to win. I think it came out to like 442 or something like that. So,
the Chiefs to play the Rams, Bo?
In the Super Bowl, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll talk offline about hedging opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. But the other part of this was actually, since we were just talking about Tyreek Hill's longest reception is 24.5 yards. I kind of like that. I just like him to get one of those game-breaking plays, and a 25-yard catch for Tyreek Hill. He kind of does that in his sleep. He could do that with a 1 air yard, honestly.
I was just about to say he could catch one behind the line of scrimmage and cash that ticket for you. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. There's some interesting trends that I saw on Follow the Money. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
No.
But I'll just quickly hum through those before I move along. Bengals are 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 games. They're also 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 as an underdog. And the under in Bengals games is 19-7-2 in the last 28 road games.
Wow.
Okay.
Chiefs are 8-2 against the spread. Chiefs are 8-2 against the spread in their last 10, and 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 home games. And for you, Scotty, the over is 7-0 in their last 7 games.
Yeah, like I said, I think the Chiefs. I don't think it's ever really super in doubt, but I could easily see the Bengals rushing through that back door, especially at that 7.5 number. So that's why I'm just looking at the over for now.
So Scotty, you said Chiefs 38, Bengals
28. Yeah.
I'm thinking more like Chiefs 32, Bengals 28. If I got to pick a score,
Okay, so do you like them enough to bet them, call, or
no?
Okay,
no.
All right, no worries.
I'm fearful of a potential whooping.
Yeah, I was going to go Chiefs 31, Bengals 16. Let's say.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then the later game on Sunday, the NFC Conference Championship, we've got the San Francisco 49ers traveling to SoFi Stadium, and the intimidating home field advantage the Rams will have there. The Rams are favored at home by 3.5. That game kicks off at 6:30 p.m. on Fox. And the Rams are looking to become just the second team to host a Super Bowl at their home stadium. And if they were to advance, that extremely rare scenario would be occurring for the second consecutive season. As, of course, the Buccaneers hosted Super Bowl 55 in Tampa last year. So that's kind of wild.
That is wild. Yeah, it feels like it literally never happens, and we're going to get it back-to-back potentially. And
in two scenarios where the home field advantage is dramatically decreased for different reasons. Of course, COVID last year changed things quite a bit. I mean, I know the Super Bowl was a little bit different, but and then just this year with could this be a 50-50 game in SoFi?
It could be 60-40 Niners fans.
I think it could be more Niners.
Yeah.
Which is an awesome little subplot to this. And I want that to be the case just because it adds a little more intrigue.
Isn't there, I was thinking about this, is there as a Bucs angle? Is there a little bit of the same idea of the star quarterback gets lured to this team that's going to be hosting the Super Bowl, and they have to go through this team that's beat them twice already this year?
I mean, the Chiefs don't.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's okay. I mean, the Bucs hadn't played the Packers twice or the Chiefs, obviously, but they had gotten thumped by the Chiefs before they. Or sorry, are you talking about the Packers in the NFC Championship?
No, I'm talking about the Rams with Stafford and the Niners. The Niners have beat them twice already this year. They've beat them 6 times in the last 3 years, which is I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, I mean, 6 straight, right?
Yeah,
Niners.
It's nuts.
Yeah, Niners 6 straight, including that Week 18 overtime victory. I mean, I guess there's some parallels in that sense, but I don't know, in terms of comparing the Bucs, just because they're not playing someone in their division, so that's kind of makes it unique in this game. It's just a division.
No, it is. It's the Bucs. It's Bucs,
you're talking about the You're talking about the divisional round. Okay. I thought you were talking about the NFC Championship versus the Packers, and I was like,
well, no. I'm not talking. I'm just talking about a little bit of a parallel between okay, the Bucs were we have to beat the Saints at some point this season. And the Rams are we have to beat the Niners at some point in our lifetime. It's just there's something there with okay, the Rams are all of a sudden this all-star studded team with a bunch of veterans trying to push to get a ring. The Bucs were almost in the exact same position with all of their all-stars coming together with the Bucs. I don't know. Maybe it's a stretch, but there's something there for me.
If I had made that connection that you were referring to the Saints game in the divisional round, then I would give you that for sure. There's some comparisons there, no doubt. I mean, I don't know. What are you guys thinking about this game? What do you want to talk about? Obviously, the Rams can beat you in a number of different ways offensively, and Stafford's proven to be a guy who can orchestrate, any kind of offense. He can turn it loose and take the top off of defense, or he could play more disciplined and take what the defense gives him if that's what Sean McVay's game plan asks for. Whereas the Niners defense has been balling out, and they got lots of weapons, just like the Rams do on D. What do you guys think of this game? What are we looking for here, gentlemen?
Well, just from kind of a aesthetic scenario, just the fact that San Fran is the 6th seed in the NFC, but they're in about as familiar a position as you can possibly be, playing a division team in a stadium that they know is going to be not a hostile environment. Whatever the breakdown is of fans, whatever it's going to, you know what I mean? They're not at Lambeau. They're not at Raymond James or, even Jerry's World, right? The first 2 games were considerably more difficult environments for them. So just the fact that the Rams have had this great season, obviously the marriage between McVay and Stafford, no complaints, I have to imagine, from Rams fan. They do so well, get a high seed. They host the NFC Championship game, and it feels like a neutral field. It feels like a bowl game or something, right? So just from that point of view, I think it's fascinating that the 6th seed is going to be, I don't want to say an advantageous situation, but just a pretty comfy spot to be on the road and to get a chance to play in the Super Bowl, right? And, they played the Saturday night game against Green Bay, so they got an extra day and all of that. So just those kind of periphery type things, I think all of that points towards San Fran. I'm not saying that's a definitive factor or anything like that. I just mean it's, you'd rather have those things than not, I suppose, going into this game, right? So, things like that. Obviously, the McVay Shanahan thing, 6-0 has been, has been beat to death. But that's that's a pretty good sample size, right?
Yeah.
That's not just San Fran swept them this year and blah blah blah. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, which it isn't, by the way. That's been totally debunked. That's just not true. So Rams Niners, obviously we can talk about the actual matchups and the X's and O's a little bit more, but just from matchup and like I said, the aesthetic point, I think it's awesome. And I think if you're a Niners fan, you got to be feeling pretty good. Larry David would agree about how this all broke for you.
Yeah, it's nuts. I think for me, it kind of starts with Trent Williams. If I'm a Niners fan, is he going to be good to go? And I know you guys just beat him. You just beat the Rams without him in week 18 or whatever it was. But I think Trent Williams in motion is probably the scariest thing in football right now. And that's something you want to have in a win or go home game. So I don't know. That's for me. It's just where their offense goes and just looking at how bad Jimmy G was in their last game. They're going to need Trent Williams to be clearing guys out of there to get those big runs that they rely on. So that's kind of where it begins and ends with me for the Niners offense.
And he's been doing it all year, Trent Williams. I mean, he's been the best left tackle in football. He's been an all-pro, absolutely dominant. He's technically listed as a game-time decision. Part of me feels
sprained ankle. He hasn't practiced all week.
But part of me feels like that's more just, trying to keep everyone on their toes. You got to think he's going to be good enough to go. And, I mean, it's a super interesting matchup as well, right? Obviously, the Rams have arguably the 2 best players in football in Ramsey and Donald. But the addition of Von Miller has really been starting to pay dividends for them. He's playing really, really well.
He's unreal.
He looked fantastic last week. Absolutely owned Donovan Smith. Donovan Smith has been really solid this year. An upper echelon tackle, which would be hard for Bucs fans to even imagine someone saying just a couple of years ago. But anyway, he was dominant, just absolutely owned him. Check out Brandon Thorne's Twitter feed, and you'll see some incredible reps from Von Miller. But he makes that defensive front that much more intimidating than it already was. So, you need a guy like Trent Williams to be able to attempt to slow Von Miller down. You got Leonard Floyd and AD in the middle. So you're right, Bo. That's going to be massive for this game. I mean, Trent Williams is a special player.
Yeah.
In terms of the Niners offensively, I mean, they have a much more volatile offense than the Rams do, in my opinion. Harder to predict where points are going to come from outside of Deebo Samuel, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's one of the most explosive weapons in football. We've talked about him a fair bit, but I think Deebo combined with Kyle Shanahan's offensive ingenuity just makes him a tough guy to prepare for. So their volatility in a way is almost makes him more unpredictable because he could get you in a number of different ways. And you just don't know what you're going to get with Jimmy Garoppolo, though, right? That's another reason they're volatile. That's why I use that term because, with Jimmy G.
That's the difference. That's the difference in the game.
And it's a damn big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If he's good and, he's healthy and, if he plays the first 3 quarters against Dallas, which was also in a dome and all that, I think they're legitimately the better team and are going to win the game. But we've seen him, in big spots, just throw some truly perplexing balls that will kill you. That'll kill you in a game like this. You can't waste possessions. You can't leave points on the board, and you certainly can't turn the ball over to that turns into points for the Rams. They're too good, right? So a good Jimmy G, I think they have a real shot. I think Deebo is, I guess he's not the best player on the field because Aaron Donald is the best player on any field that he's ever walked onto. But just the creativity with Deebo, the fact that Ayuk is risen from the dead. You feel like Kittle's probably due for a big game. I like Elijah Mitchell in the as a running back for the Niners. I think they have what it takes to win this game.
It's obvious where you're leaning, Scotty? Like, do you like them outright or just plus the points?
Well, I definitely like them plus the points. The 3.5 is borderline shocking to me. But just from a standpoint of, the casual bettors are going to see that San Fran's beat them 6 times in a row. And like, what else that would be enough for a lot of people to say, well, what's different now? Right. But I don't want to take anything away from the Rams. Sharp people have been on the Rams in this game. And, for most of last week, they dominated a very good Bucs team. And honestly, it shouldn't have been as close as it was, but they let him hang around. And that's kind of a big question for me. Is like Sean McVay was not impressive in a big spot last week. He was not. And now he's kind of facing his buddy / nemesis, which is strange. And he has to kind of sack up and just coach the game of his life. We'll see, man. I guess I kind of weirdly believe in the Shanahan-Garoppolo combo more than McVay and Stafford, and I think reasonable people can disagree, but that's just where I'm at right now.
For me, it's interesting. I think we talked about it when we were doing our previews. These two guys were on a podcast together called Flying Coach, where Sean McVay was basically interviewing Kyle Shanahan. And the interesting part of it, now that I'm like thinking about it again, was there was a point in the podcast where Shanahan was like, it's like famously Stafford was in Mexico with McVay, and that's where they kind of made the deal that he was going to be coming. And Shanahan said that he was in Mexico as well, and like was contemplating whether he was going to go and break up their meeting and try to make a better offer to Stafford to get him to come to the Niners. So like, it's so interesting to see these two one guy's with the quarterback who there's one quarterback that they both were kind of fawning over this summer. This guy got there with the one that got it, and the other guy got there with the one he had. It's going to be super interesting just to see what Stafford brings in the biggest game of his life, honestly, until next week, if he does get, or until the Super Bowl, if he does get to play. I'm also really interested to see what they do with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is all over the field. Every play, you have no idea if he's going to be a tight end, if he's going to be in the backfield, if he's going to be a wide out. And I think if you're a Niners fan, you're going into this game saying, oh, well, we somewhat shut down Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams had like 9 catches for 90 yards or something last week. Cooper Kupp is a completely different beast than Devontae Adams. And it's not that he's a better beast. It's just that he's a lot. It's a much different task for a defense. So I'm really interested to see how they attack Cooper Kupp. And for the Rams, I think this is what you got Odell Beckham Jr. for, was a game like this. So even if you are able to contain Cooper Kupp in whatever that means in this day and age of Cooper Kupp just getting 100 yards every game, OBJ can rip you up for that as well too, or at least for like 70 and there's 7 catches and like 80 yards or 90 yards or something like that, and some big catches at that. So I'm super interested to see how I want to say depleted Niners defensive backfield, but clearly one on paper hasn't been able to match up with the receiving cores. That can they pull another one out of the hat?
Someone okay over there? Someone's setup is making some funny noises. Weird.
I don't know, man.
Okay. Anyway, I got a question for you guys then about this, specifically of a certain player. George Kittle has been very quiet as a receiver. I think he's gone like 6 games in a row without a touchdown. Obviously, they've been using him heavily in their like zone rushing attack, and he's a huge blocking asset for them. But do you expect him to be used more as a receiver this game?
Yeah, because I think Garoppolo and Shanahan, they both really trust him.
But I've been waiting for that, Scotty. They needed him in the last few games.
You're right.
Well.
And he had a big drop in that Packers game.
He had a couple, right? He had a couple,
but he's really good. And I think you just have to, hope or assume that your studs are going to play well in the biggest game, right? So I would expect a bigger game from Kittle, just because he's really good and he's versatile and he can do a little bit of everything. And I think he's going to get the chance to catch, 6 to 8 balls and definitely, a couple targets in the red zone here. So I think it's time for Kittle to awaken, and I think they need him because let's face it, like we haven't even – the Niners offense scored 6 points last week and won a road playoff game. Like that actually happened, right? That, good luck doing that again. It's just the odds of that happening are so slim, right? They're going to need to find some big plays, and whether it be Debo on a crosser or a Kittle up the middle, they're going to have to hit a couple of those, right? So I think he's due, and they know what to do against the Rams. They just do. This is a comfortable game, and I think the Niners are going to be quite prepared and super ready to go, and just ready to beat this team again.
Yeah, if he's definitely due, and I think if you look at Gronk's numbers from last week, I think the Rams have a little bit of a weakness covering tight ends. But I don't know. I'm with you, Colin. Like it's been more. Kittle's had more than enough chances to prove that he's the guy that he was last year, and it's been tough this year.
That's totally fair, and especially like those last 6 games that you were saying, like crunch time, he hasn't been as dynamic. He hasn't been as much of a game breaker. So, maybe I'm hoping more than anything. I trust that guy. I just think he's really good. And I know that he's bringing it. You know what I mean? Like he's not some, what are we going to get out of him from an energy or effort perspective? Maybe you don't get the stats or the numbers every game, but you know that he's like absolutely busting his balls out there. And I just think that's eventually going to pay off. And I think he's going to pay off in a big way in this game.
I just wonder if they even trust Garoppolo to throw the ball that many times for Kittle to have a big game. And especially if for some reason Trent Williams doesn't play, like I just can't see them throwing the ball that often.
But that depends on the game flow, right? It depends on how much you're down. I think San Fran is still willing to run the ball even if they don't have the lead, right? Because they run it so efficiently and they have so many different guys that can hurt you. But the formula for the Niners to win is to try to get out to a lead, right? Try to get out to a lead. Don't put too much pressure on Garoppolo because maybe he can do it, but I don't think the odds are in his favor of him leading another big comeback, right? So
no.
We'll see. I think the first quarter in that game is going to be super telling as to how the rest of the game plays. These teams know each other so well. They know each other so well, and it's just going to be like big plays, like we said, potential tip ball here, maybe a ridiculous interception from either of these quarterbacks. Because let's face it, it's possible, and that might be the difference. I mean, I don't know what Rams fans are thinking right now if Cam Akers gets the ball. Couple absolutely gigantic fumbles in that Bucs game, right? He has not looked that great. Obviously we can cut him some slack given that he basically, what was it? It was an Achilles, right? For
Ruptured
him,
Achilles, yeah.
Yeah, now he's back and playing, so good for him. But hey man, you can't fumble twice in this game, right? Like you just can't.
I actually like Akers. Like besides those 2 like game-breaking fumbles, they're horrible. But I think he's proven to me, especially in that Arizona game, like he is a powerful runner. He's very active in their passing game too. I like Akers if he can hold on to the ball, which is a horrible thing to say about any running back, but
yeah, big if.
Oh, Akers is a legit player if you're talking big picture for sure. Like for next year, I think Scott's more talking about this specific game in terms of
totally.
How crazy would it be if Kyle Shanahan brings the San Francisco Niners back to which would be their second Super Bowl appearance in the last 3 Super Bowls with Jimmy Garoppolo as his quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, and then I can't even, here's the craziest part about it. It's that I feel like opinions on Jimmy won't have changed at all in a positive way. Like, it's not like people are like, holy shit, this quarterback has taken the Niners to 2 Super Bowls and out of 3, but no, it's like, I feel like I feel like he's kind of a handcuff for Shanahan, and Shanahan's just dragging his ass there with all of his like schemes and plans and just finding ways to mask this glaring volatile.
Even if they make it to the Super Bowl, I think there's going to be a week 1 quarterback controversy. in San Francisco.
Oh,
saying
there's
100%.
Unless he's, 30 for 36 against the Rams and then similar against the Chiefs. Like but that's not how they don't even need that in order for them to win, right? Like I saw a stat today in the 4 playoff wins of Garoppolo's career, he's only thrown the ball 71 times. So it's less than 20 times per game because they've gotten out to leads and they're just murdering people on the ground, right? So like the formula for them is to get out to this lead and not have to have him win the game, right? Yeah. So that's just it's wild because they might get to the Super Bowl again and it will be not at all, or at least the perception will be not at all because of the quarterback, which is crazy.
It's crazy in 2022 or whatever year it is.
Yeah.
Shout out to Wanda Brown checking in on YouTube. We got a Niners fan in the building. She says, great observation. Niner fan here. So right. Not sure exactly what she was talking about, but I
the whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Wanda
we've been right
knows.
on everything tonight.
Wanda knows. Yeah, we've never been wrong. Wanda,
but yeah,
don't check our divisional previews from before the season, all right? Just believe us, they were all right.
Yeah, but subscribe while you're here, Wanda. How about that?
Yeah, please.
We'll create a Wanda segment every week. Anyone? Do you guys want to? We might as well predict our scores here. Anyone want to? I have a feeling where Scotty's going with his.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. I like the Niners. I'm saying 28-24 Niners.
I'll take the Rams 21-20.
Okay, so
yeah, I'm going with the Rams too. I just don't know how big. I kind of think it's going to be a low scoring game.
Yeah,
I think maybe like 19-16 type of game. 19-10 maybe Rams.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean I'm 21-20. It's same realm. Yours is a little
more
filthy.
Similar scenario, yeah.
I mean, it's fun. It's interesting too. The one thing that I meant to mention is like, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, rightfully so, get like so many headlines, right, as being just absolute difference makers on that end of the ball. But the Niners, we haven't talked about Nick Bosa and Fred Warner being on the same sideline either.
Yeah,
right?
True.
Opposite them. Like those are two absolute elite defensive players at their respective positions. Maybe the best linebacker in football. You could easily make that argument. And a top-notch edge rusher as well. So this game can be really fun. And the cool thing about this game, I think the AFC Championship is a little more dependent on offenses coming through, and that's going to dictate what happens. This game, it could happen in any way. Like this game script, who knows how it could go? Like I think Scott was mentioning something along those lines earlier. Like it could be won in any freaking way. Who knows?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. Wanda thinks Wanda's going to the game. So there's another Niner fan.
Awesome. There you go.
That's awesome, 51%.
Wanda. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's calling the Niners defense will confuse Stafford. Watch. I wish the Bucs were able to do that to Stafford last week, Wanda. So
and, sorry, because there's so many aspects to these games, we didn't even really touch on Stafford. Kind of feels like, I don't want to say he's quieted critics, but unless he's absolutely awful this week, I feel like great season in general for Stafford's kind of reputation and everything. I don't know. Is that fair?
I don't know. I think if the Rams don't make it to the Super Bowl, I think there's going to be some very upset Rams fans. Like they do not have their own pick for the rest of this decade or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, they gave up everything to try to win a Super Bowl this year. If they don't even get to the game, I think there's going to be a lot of people saying, why do we spend that money on? Why do we spend those picks and money on Matthew Stafford?
Yeah,
it's not necessarily for this, but it's not restricted specifically to this season necessarily for them, right? Like, can they not run it back with most of these guys next year as well? Like, they got Donald Ramsey, right? Like,
but you're right. So, but I think you might lose some of the veterans unless they're willing to take a pay cut. Like a guy like OBJ, I think. Okay, so when we do get to our off season, this is one of the best wide receiver free agent classes we've had in a long, long time. So yeah, OBJ is going to be one of those guys that's like, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to bring him back. Right. And OBJ, I think they've got some guys in their line as well, in their offensive line, they're going to be really tough to bring back as well.
Well, their left tackle is 40 years old too, so
there's no that he might be 41 next year, right? Because they don't have any other way to bring him back, bring anyone.
And I think Von Miller's a rental as well, I believe. I can't.
I think
confirm
Von Miller said he wants to finish his career as a Ram, but like I don't know. Once you go to the negotiation table and they're saying, okay, we can only pay you this much, it's who knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just saying, I think overall I don't want to say the experiment, but it's gone well for Stafford and the Rams. And even just winning on the road against Brady, I think it would have silenced some of Stafford's doubters at the very least. But yeah, at this point, now you're hosting the NFC Championship game. Super Bowl's like, yeah, go win the fucking game. Like I totally get that. But if you look at like the wider view, that was more my point. Like I just feel like, all right, yeah, pretty good year. It's very hard to get to the NFC Championship, but yeah.
So that I think just about does it in terms of our previews for the championship weekend coming up. Hoping for a good weekend of football. If we could get anything close to the amount of suspense and intrigue we had last weekend, I think football fans anywhere, no matter who they root for, would be satisfied. Really quick, just to hit on a couple of the items going on from a coaching general manager perspective and the vacancies that exist in the league. Vikings have filled their GM spot this week with Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who was the Browns VP of football ops. The Bears have filled both spots, hiring general manager Ryan Poles, who was formerly the Chiefs executive director of player personnel, well-respected guy, who then shortly thereafter hired Matt Eberflus, who's the Colts defensive coordinator. Broncos, not a shocker here, and this is super interesting, is them bringing over Nathaniel Hackett, former Packers offensive coordinator, to be their head coach. I'm a huge fanboy, I've realized, of George Payton, the Broncos GM. I've just been loving what he's been doing. So hearing good things about Hackett, but I just like that. I mean, just trying to make things as appealing as possible to Aaron Rodgers. It seems to be that is full steam ahead for that, and why could you blame them?
Well, when you're in a division with Herbert and Mahomes, you probably want to have Aaron Rodgers come in, or else what are you doing?
For sure. Yeah. And then the Giants, so they hired Joe Schoen, who is the Bills assistant GM. I think that was one of the earliest hires this cycle. And just today, shortly before we came on the air, they will be introducing, it's been made official that Welland, Ontario's finest, Brian Daboll, is taking over the head coaching duties there. I thought he was the perfect fit for the Bears, just with Fields there. So that's what I was certainly hoping for as a Field supporter. But
nobody had a better interview tape than Brian Daboll after last weekend.
Yeah.
Like, of all of the head coaches, like that guy can just go in and say, okay,
yeah.
Did you see what, like, I would have won that game if the rules were different, basically.
Even the whole playoffs. Look what his offense did the first weekend.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Exactly.
Brian Daboll would have made way too much sense for the Bears for them to actually do something normal. I don't know, man. Maybe Matt Eberflus is going to be good, but like the defensive coordinator for the Colts, I don't know. That's where you land, from the team that has no punch, has no identity really, but you have a young quarterback. That's where you go. These teams, these bad franchises, like they can't even help themselves. And this is a perfect example. I don't know. I mean, the Giants are a dumpster fire. I think Daboll is probably a solid hire, but they're so bad. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I was going to say, I think the Giants, like, if you are a bad franchise, that was everything you want to see from your bad franchise for off-season moves before players. Like, they hire a GM from outside of their organization for the first time basically ever since John Mara has been the owner. And then Brian Daboll comes in. And I think the thing that you got to think about with Daboll is that he has a little bit of experience with a running quarterback and building an offense around Josh Allen. And you can kind of, like, a very poor man's version of what Josh Allen does is what you hope Daniel Jones's ceiling is, right? So I don't know. I love what the Giants did.
Yeah, that's totally fair. They just raided the Bills.
Yeah, but I also thought the Giants had a top 5 receiving core coming into the season, so I could be completely biased.
Hey, respect to you for bringing that one back up too, man.
Yeah,
absolutely. You gotta do it sometimes, man.
Kenny Galladay is still holding out for that first touchdown. I think he's gonna get it around March.
he's still on holiday.
Yeah.
Um,
Good.
in terms of the Jags, apparently, I don't know. Speaking of dysfunctional franchises that are tough to get a read on,
Oh my God.
I thought 2 days ago, or at least day and a half ago, that it was pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered that Leftwich was going to be hired as their head coach, and that Adrian Wilson would be taking the GM role. And apparently, that's part of what Leftwich was holding out for, but no word still from them. So they've gone silent. Sounds like a bunch of shady shit's going on in terms of the negotiations or something.
Yeah.
Might have bundled the bag too. Now the Saints job is open too, right? Like
Yeah.
if I was Leftwich, I might want to. I don't know.
I feel like the Saints are honestly just trolling the Bucks, and really what they're doing is helping Leftwich's negotiation status, because they've lit up they've just lit up Leftwich, their defense, and these last 2 seasons, right? Like, so
true.
Leftwich has not performed well when orchestrating an offense versus the New Orleans Saints at all. It would be like the worst team he's performed against. So that one just seems weird to me. I think they're most likely going to go Dennis Allen in-house, but I don't know. Anyway, Saints still without a coach, Dolphins without a coach, Raiders without a coach or a GM, and the Texans without a coach. So we'll keep you updated on that. But for now, the main objective are the teams that are still alive, still in the postseason, and can't wait to talk about it at some point next week in terms of what we see this weekend. And then we'll be on to teeing up a Super Bowl matchup with whoever's playing. So looking forward to that. As always, please do not be shy and feel free to like and subscribe to the Bucks Banter podcast. We talk a lot more than Bucks football. Thanks to those of you who joined us this evening in the comments. Unfortunately, we weren't connected through Bucks Report, but happy to be on the airwaves nonetheless. Enjoy this weekend of football and enjoy this weekend in general. Take care. Be well.
Peace.